Hi, I'm Tola,
And I'm Yinka,
and together we run a consulting company called TA Consulting.
where we create strategic brands for ambitious companies. Tola, what is the difference between a logo and a brand? I know that brand and branding is this kind of buzzword that's been thrown around, and I know there's some confusion about what a logo is, what's a brand. Is my logo my brand, or is my brand my logo? What's the difference?
I think that term brand and branding is one of the most misunderstood terms out there because I used to say I was into branding without even understanding what it was in the first place. So it's very well misunderstood. I would explain this way. This is how I see it. A logo is that visible identifier for a company. So I won't use the word brand yet, but it's the identifier for the company where you can say, oh, this is this company, and you can differentiate it from the other company. Now that's the logo. It's a very, very important element of any company's visual structure. Very important. Now, a brand is much deeper because a brand sometimes, and I guess this is where it gets confusing for a lot of people, it's not tangible. A lot of times when it comes to branding, it's more about perception and how people perceive or see this thing. So I think this example that comes to my mind, when you look at a door, a door can have a door handle. And let's say that door handle is what I call the logo. Every door has a door handle. Now, what is that door handle on? You understand? And I know there are different types of doors. So the branding now becomes, what kind of door is it? Is it a security door? You see, the door handle doesn't really tell you whether it's a security door, but there are other elements about the door, the way it's installed, the material used for it, that now puts perspective. Is it a security door? Is it a sliding door? Is it a decorative door? Is it a bedroom door? You understand? So that perception that is much larger than the handle, because the handle can be shiny. But that perception that is much larger than that handle now becomes the branding. That you see it and you can put the door in a particular category just by looking at it and just by experiencing it. It might be by just the fact that this door is so heavy, or this must be a security door. You understand? So a lot of times people focus a lot on that handle,
Yeah.
and don't focus on the real on the entire door itself. So it's like having a real shiny handle, and you feel because the handle is shiny, oh, this must be a security door. But you now use some flimsy plywood and anyone can kick through it. So it defeats the purpose of having a very shiny handle for a door that doesn't work for the purpose for which you want it to work.
Yeah.
So I feel like branding is a perception that is built around the services or a product that a company puts out there, and the logo is more or less the identifier where you can identify this company from the other company and know that, okay, I'm buying from these people or interacting with these people.
Yeah. So I think that one example that comes to mind is when you see a Mercedes logo on a car, then you know that the car was made by Mercedes.
Yeah.
When you see a Volvo logo on a car, on another car, maybe they're even the same color, then you know that that car was made by Volvo. You know the maker. You are able to identify the person that produced that car. But that visual icon that you see, and you're able to identify, who the maker is, the company behind that car is, that's the logo. But now the brand, which is like, and I completely agree with what you said, is so much more, is knowing that Mercedes stands for something called prestige. There's an experience that comes to mind. It means something. That logo not just says that, oh, it was made by a car company in Germany, but it means that when you enter, the brand behind that logo, that is intangible, that you cannot see, means that when you enter a car, you just expect it to be luxurious.
Yeah.
You expect to feel a certain way when you are in that car. And that's the same way when you see Volvo. And beyond that logo for the Volvo, you are able to say, oh, I expect this car to be safe. It brings an expectation of an experience. Because that logo doesn't just identify the car as, okay, this is a car that was made by this, but it says, it brings an expectation to your heart that when I enter this car, if I buy this car, then I'm buying safety. And that is the real impact, or at least that's the real difference between a logo and a brand, where a brand is an identifier, but it's also a visual signal for something, an experience, for something that you can look forward to receiving.
I totally agree with that. And interesting, you've spoken about two automobile brands that convey two different messages. Their essence is different, but they're both vehicles. It's funny how Volvo leverage on safety. So when you buy a Volvo, you feel like, okay, you've bought into a safe vehicle, as opposed to the Mercedes-Benz that leverages on prestige. And you can see that these things, it wasn't left to people to think of a Volvo as a safe car or a Mercedes as a prestigious car. Someone didn't just wake up and say, oh, I think this car is prestigious. It was intentional. And that's where it comes to a lot of companies out there spend a lot of money fixing that identifier. You understand? They're like, okay, once I fix that identifier and put it on our letterhead and put it on our business cards and put it on our cars and our collateral, then and our t-shirt, then the perception will build itself. They don't spend a lot on building that perception. And that's one thing, we talk about Mercedes-Benz, talk about your other brands and think of what they mean to us. But we don't really take into cognizance the fact that the branding is intentional. And just like someone sat down to think about the logo and they were back and forth on, oh, this logo doesn't look good enough or doesn't work. The same way the branding has to be intentional. There has to be some back and forth, some asking of questions. So you see businesses today saying, oh, my business is not doing well, but I've spent so much money on t-shirts, we spend so much money on flash drives, we spend so much money on mugs, on websites. But in the end, the soul, because I spent so much money on the body, but not really thinking of what the soul of the brand is. And I think that is where people, the lack of understanding of branding comes in. People are so focused on that, on the artifact, on those tangible things, and the real emotional things that build connection. People just leave it for people and just think, okay, let's put it out there and let's see what they will think about it. But we must be intentional.
Yeah. And this is why it's important for businesses, because when a customer is faced with a choice and you have two different logos side by side, what happens when you have good branding is a customer will choose you because they know what you stand for. That's the first thing. And that gives you an edge in the market. And that's the whole point of branding. Because you want, when they see that icon, they want to be like, between two logistics partners, one is just a normal logistics partner. By choosing this logo or this brand that this company has, I am choosing professionalism. That's what it means. That's the story I tell myself emotionally. I don't have to say it out loud, but when I pick it. So another example I'll give, I go to buy a phone and there's a Samsung next to an iPhone. And so for me, I might be, what do I want? But I know that Apple, what they represent, I know that they represent innovation, creativity, and then a certain type of rebelliousness. And they put out this message intentionally so that when I, who have these same values, go out to buy a phone and I see that logo, I immediately connect with it. Now, I think one of the reasons why businesses are unable to think about this part of the brand or to understand this concept of an essence is because or the reason why it's easy to default to a logo is because they don't have the essence. One of the things that I think we have noticed when working with businesses is that they really can't say what differentiates them
From the next brand.
from the next company in their category. So we are both logistics companies. We both have logos, but we're essentially the same companies with
Yes.
different faces.
Yeah, we both have bikes.
But it's like APC and PDP. They have different logo.
But it's the same thing.
There's the same thing. There is
Yeah.
no, when I am in APC or when I'm in PDP, there's nothing that, I don't expect different.
No, yeah, sure.
My point is that a lot of brands don't see the need to identify an essence that differentiates them from their next competitor.
Yeah, that's true. And that essence is everything. Because when it comes to the point of sale, you have somebody who has good packaging like you, good logo, then you have your product, good packaging, good logo. There has to be, something has to give. A lot of time what gives is that extra value, that emotional value that the customer keys into. And I remember having this experience with my wife where we wanted to buy toothpaste, and in the end she told me, oh, let's buy this toothpaste because it is number one. It is the number one toothpaste in the world. You understand? And as a matter of fact, we were going to discontinue using that toothpaste because we thought it was causing some kind of adverse effect, but we weren't sure whether it was from the toothpaste. But she said it can't be from this toothpaste. She kind of defended, said it can't be because they are number one. You understand? But and that was kind of interesting to me because she now stood as an advocate because we're doing like, okay, are we having allergies because of this toothpaste? I said, no, it cannot be because of these guys. You understand? Because she kind of, over time, it has been repeated that these people are number one. We are number one, we are number one, we are number one. So in a subconscious, the number one toothpaste could not be causing allergies.
Yeah.
It couldn't be. It can't be. So it wasn't about their packaging anymore. Yeah, the packaging is nice and all that. But beyond that, it was the trust of they've been doing this thing for years. They know what they're doing. So let's look elsewhere. We can't blame these guys. And that's when branding has really taken root in a customer's heart, where the customer feels, you know what, I trust these guys too much. And I guess what today's business people really need to learn is that patience to build a brand. Very important. I see that impatience that people put into logo design, you cannot put it into branding. You just can't. You cannot rush trust. You cannot rush the essence that you're communicating. It comes by continuously putting a messaging out there, consistency, and then it goes down into people's subconscious. But you see that a lot of people get into business to make a quick bucks nowadays, and they realize that, oh, we're not making the money we want to do because these guys, these giants in the industry keep taking us out. And that's because the giants in the industry have been willing to put time into it. So I believe a core element in branding is that, look, it's slow but deep.
Yeah.
You understand? It's slow but deep. So even when you are not seeing the stem shoot up, you must believe that the roots are are anchoring into the ground. So that element of being patient enough to say, number one, the patience must come with, you must be willing to sit with a consulting company like ours and answer these questions. You know, all those things that clients kind of say of, I don't have time to answer these questions.
Yeah.
You understand? Figure it out. You see, that's what makes a company lose in the end. You know, you must be patient enough to really go through a sprint and ask those really important questions, those questions that build a core, build the soul. It's just like you cannot rush a child in the womb. You cannot say, oh, you know what, let's eat all the vitamins so that this child can come out in 2 months. No, it can't happen. That child has not developed. it can come out in 7 months, in 6 months sometimes, but that even comes out with complications.
Yes.
You understand? So,
Yes.
but when you come out with that 9 months, everything is intact. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? And that's the same thing with branding. That's taking time to build that soul of the company, to develop an essence, which is not the same thing as when you're developing a logo a lot of time.
I think one of the things that I would just like to say, in going back to the question that we started with, is your logo essentially is something that people see that triggers an idea in their mind, or that tells them to expect a certain experience.
True.
And so that is the main thing. And so that idea in their mind, that expectation, that story that they tell themselves, that is the brand.
Yeah.
But the logo itself, the swoosh of the Nike or the M of McDonald's, those things are only the signals. They're only like the trafficator that tells you to expect something. So that is, I think, the difference.
Yeah.
If you like what you've heard, you can check us out at tolaalabiconsulting.com.